Hello everyone and welcome back to AustinPlus commentary, where today we are talking about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And by The Final Reckoning, it is the finale to the whole franchise, which is insane to me. And today we are going to review it. I did watch this a while ago, so my mind may be a bit fuzzy with this. But yeah, let's just get right into it, because it was a long ass movie. First off with best characters, like always. In number one, we have, and I think we all know who we're going to be talking about right now. Obviously, it's Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt himself. And, like, he's the icon of the Mission Impossible. And I know that sounds very cliche and corny. Yes, he is the icon of the Mission Impossible franchise, because he started it all, like, with Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Death Reckoning, and then obviously this one, and then you had there was the Dead Reckoning, which was the one before. What was the one before that? Oh my god, it was the one with Henry Cavill. Anyway, but like, he is just he is what made the Mission Impossible franchise like go. He did his own stunts, he did his own things, he did his own this and that, and his character arc, especially in this movie, it shows how progressive he is. So how much he has grown to like sacrifice himself rather than having his friends. And I know that's a very typical trait in a character like Ethan Hunt, but he is still that person that will go through immense lengths to save others before himself. And even though others are like, oh no, don't do that, he doesn't listen. So I think that kind of like is a contrast between his personality of someone that doesn't listen, but then also someone that values friendship over their own life, which is it's a really good contrast between two types of characters. It's almost like it's two separate like personalities almost. Now, I started watching this Mission Impossible like franchise. I think the first ever movie I saw was Rogue Nation, because my parents wanted to go and see Mission Impossible and I was too young to stay home by myself. So that was the first time I ever watched it. At the time, I didn't appreciate it. Because I think I was a bit young. And it didn't understand it as well. I think I might have been 10 or 11. But like in recent years, when I saw the one before The Final Reckoning, I was able to appreciate the value of this franchise. But I've always said that the Mission Impossible franchise should work as like a series. However, this movie was that damn long, it didn't really work, because every movie has a title sequence. Every episode of a show has a title sequence. You can see the link I'm trying to make there. And obviously every series has a main character and a set of other main characters. So I do believe this would have been a good show. I mean, and I know you're going to say, but these are movies. Hey, if Stranger Things can do it, so can they. I honestly think if you could just put all of them into one show, it'd work. I mean, you could do the same with Star Wars. To be fair, if we just keep on going, we might lose ourselves in the moment. But yeah, you could essentially just do that. The second best character of this movie, now this is a very small one, but the reason I really like this is because of how much they've changed since the last movie. And they've only been in two, this one and the one before. I don't know her name. I'm just going to call her Pom. Because I know Pom Klementieff is the person who played her. I do not know their name. Apologies. I do not know her name, so I'm just going to call her Pom. But her character was really, she was the mix between, there's a typical, in every, spy movie, there's always someone that's the, assassin in one team, or ends up dying before the big bad. That's a typical spy movie for you. But she knew what her boss was doing was wrong, tried to retract from it on multiple occasions, and then in the end, when she was inevitably shot, she actually helped Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt, and then it ended up helping everyone out. And in turn, she helped everyone out a lot in this movie with the likes of Simon Pegg or Benjamin. All of that, it shows great character growth, and that's why I put her on this list, because she is an amazing character, and that growth is not something you typically see, because Mission Impossible, to me, when I first saw Mission Impossible, it was a typical spy movie. However, when you watch every single show, like, see, I'm getting myself mixed into that. Once you watch every single, like, movie, you kind of get the idea that it is almost a it is a different story every time, but there's something new that keeps you enticed, like a show. But this typical spy cliche is that the assassin will die before the big battle. She didn't die. She nearly did, but she didn't. But she also changed the way she led her own life. She was an assassin. She nearly was locked up, but then Ethan Hunt gave her an opportunity, and I think that opportunity of character development and then seeing her skills throughout the whole movie, it just shows how you can put your you can put your skills to good use. Everyone can. My next favorite character, there was only 3 I had, and I know it's going to sound very sad. Now, the thing is, Benjamin, I would have put on this list. However, I didn't because he's pretty much the same in every movie. That doesn't mean I don't like him. Don't come at me. But I do think he's just the same character in every movie. This character was a bit we were introduced in the last movie, but then got such a better but got such a better story in this one. So I'm going to give it to. I'm really bad with names. Haley Atwell. So Haley Atwell. I'm. You might notice I am using people's actor names. That is because I simply just do not remember their names. I understood why they brought her into this movie. It was more of like a reminder that Ethan Hunt definitely did have a wife but then lost, and then her significance was that she reminded Ethan of his wife, who is killed by a big bad in this movie. So I know it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but that was literally all Haley Atwell's role in the last film. However, in this one, she stuck around. I did not expect to see her in this movie. I know the last one she was on a train, but then she dipped. I wouldn't have been surprised to hear a tiny line in this movie saying, "Oh yeah, she hasn't been seen since." Well, no, really. But she did actually not. She did end up coming back, and it was all the scenes that Ethan and her were together. You could see that he wasn't seeing Haley or whatever her name is. I'm sorry, but he wasn't seeing Haley. She was seeing his wife, and in that, then he saw the conflict. But also, there's a lot of difference in this movie with Ethan because his attitude really does change. As much as he is very much aware that he doesn't want to hurt anyone in his group, he was so willing to let her believe that he was going to gas the whole room. I think it was first 20 minutes of the film. But yeah, I definitely think her character was what set every movie of these has this romantic aspect. The one with Rebecca Ferguson, that was in the last 2, and then the one before that I think was Vanessa Kirby. Someone can verify that. But yeah, that love interest, this is something that keeps on carrying on, and I think Haley is actually one of the best ones we've ever had and I think the only reason it works now than it would have did with say Rebecca Ferguson is because of that link with his old wife, or dead wife, whatever. So I definitely think that was that's what made her character really important. Now, the top 5 scenes of this movie. I will not lie to you, the 5th scene, I kind of had forgotten about the rest of the whole film. I have not actually seen this film since, mainly because there are so many things being released this summer, 28 years later, Ballerina, all stuff like that. I don't have the time to go and watch this again, and also I need to write reviews for this, but I'm basically remembering this in my brain, and I've remembered a pretty big chunk of it. But this scene at this point in the movie, and I remember I was feeling this in the actual cinema, I'd forgotten half of the film before this scene. So the scene where he is diving into the sea and he goes into that wrecked submarine where everyone was sinking to the ice, no, floating up to the ice, not sinking. Yeah, you sink up. But the scene where he is like going through that submarine, I was waiting for, like, this would be typical Ethan Hunt showing he's all that. It is if, like, basically a shark came in and tried, like, eating him. I don't know how cold that water is. To my understanding, it was pretty cold, but I wouldn't have been surprised if, like, Ethan Hunt showed what he was worth if a flipping, like, dinosaur type sea monster came in and it would be like, yeah, have this, mate, bang. I wouldn't have been surprised in the slightest if that was the case. But this scene, like, it just kept you curious almost. It wasn't the fact that it was entertaining about, like, the importance. It obviously had links to the old movie and how important it was to the story that he find that room with the control room where the entity first made its strike. However, it was more the mystery, like, oh, what's he about to find next? Oh, what's he about to find next? And mainly with the amount of missiles that were in that flipping submarine, I was terrified one of them was about to go shoot out the front. Now, I knew if that one of those missiles did shoot out the front, he wouldn't have actually been damaged. Not because it's a film and he is the main character, mainly because he was on the other end of it. But if he wasn't on the other end of it, even if he was on the other end of it and the missile went yeet, then he would have been sucked out, which that would have just been a bit funny, to be honest. Terrifying, but funny. Now, the next scene I want to talk about is, or number 4, is Luther's death. Now, when I saw Luther in that room, like, in that, like, health thing, I was under the impression he was not going to last long. It was so meaningful and shows how many friends he's made along the way, of all of this stuff, but also shows how powerful Gabriel was at the time. And I think that is more important than it, like, you think. And as I said, I wasn't surprised that Luther died. I just think he probably could have gotten a better, like, maybe death out of it. I think if he, I mean, you can't say blowing up. I mean, he is the techno guy behind Benji, and I wasn't exactly surprised that maybe a, like, analytic bomb was the way he was going to go out. However, it still feels like it still felt wrong. I think he should have gone out in a better way. Say, if Luther died in front of Ethan, not in the way that they were talking because he saw the bomb and he knew he was going to die. But I think it would have been a better, like, shout if it was Gabriel killing him to influence that darkness inside of Ethan that I don't really think we didn't see a lot of. Everyone said, like, oh, he would have a dark arc because of the Gabriel and wife thing, but he didn't. And I think if Luther was killed in that manner, it would have been a good way to do it, but I guess not. Thirdly on the list is the conference scene. Now, when the president comes in and basically tries to stop Ethan from causing any more havoc. Now, of all of the national issues or international, I don't know where half this franchise takes place, but after all of the issues, he's been put on trial and yet he is the only one that can solve it. That just sums up, like, in all of these movies, someone's just like, right, we need to apprehend him, but he's the only one that can help us. We must apprehend him. Yeah, some people are just clouded by that. It's those scenes that it was one of my favorite scenes because it's one of the cliches of us, in not even a spy film, but any film. Like, I can tell you that is a scene that's going to happen in the new Superman film. I can assure you of that. But it's so typical, and it really annoys me. But that's also why I kind of rate this scene. Now, the penultimate scene is and I think we all know, the final battle, or I don't know what to call it. It wasn't a battle. It was more like who can get the highest and not fall. That was it was one of the stupidest scenes I've ever seen. It was also quite funny because Gabriel so Gabriel dies. The way that Gabriel dies is absolutely horrendous. So he did not have a nice death. He didn't die like happy, and he died quite painfully. So for like trying to hold on to the plane, he loses his grip and his nuts get caught in the fin.
What? What the fuck?
How do you think that was pitched in like the meetings? How was it like, right, how are we gonna get Gabriel to die? Oh, I know. Let's get him like trying to hold on to the plane, then he's gonna fall, he's gonna hit the fin with his nuts and then die because the fin's gonna split into his head. Perfect. You're like, who thinks of that? Who thinks of that? But the scene where Ethan Hunt meets up with his his colleagues, to fight the entity and fight Gabriel in the end, that was such a meaningful scene because obviously the background was like should you choose to accept it, the typical line that is said in Mission Impossible, your mission, should you choose to accept it, with the background music, and then leads into a title card. That's amazing. But also the scene where it leads into Mission Impossible music, but it's all of them going their separate ways. That's again another scene that is just, it does touch your heart a bit, and it's really nice. And it also reminds you that it's ending, and that was their last ride, but everyone's still there. So what could they do? They could do spin-offs. However, they are not going to do. The director and everything said this franchise will not get any spin-offs, which I think is just cruel. Why would you do that? You have such potential, but you're just not going to do spin-offs. I mean, I guess if you want to keep that legacy that you've had for years on end, maybe, but still, I just thought that was in such bad taste, in my opinion, that is. As of time of recording and as of time of uploading, the Mission Impossible Final Reckoning has made $510 million since opening. It grossed $65 million on opening weekend. Considering this movie has been out for 3.7 weeks, and this has been advertised to 3,857 theaters. The average run per theater is 35,000 per theater.
Nice.
I'll say that. That's a good payday. The production budget of this movie was actually a lot lower than people thought, but it was 400 million, so it's just broken even. But this does make the worldwide box office 1.3 times bigger than the actual production budget, which means its profit margin has gone up, which is impressive. I think 400 million is a lot, though, for a film. Like, I know it's Mission Impossible, but 400 mil, Jesus Christ, I expect that from an Avengers movie. Now, I think that very cliche is how good was the ending to the franchise. So this movie was obviously the ending to one of the biggest franchises in cinema, which is the Mission Impossible. However, how good of an ending was it? I would say it was actually the perfect ending. It leaves it open for spin-offs, even if they change their mind in the end, it does. But there was not really anything wrong with in the ending sense. It it finished the story that was introduced to us in the last movie. I don't know how other people feel about it, how other people feel about it, but I thought it was a great ending to the franchise. And I did hear some people say that like there's still so much not yet to be answered. I don't quite know what you mean by that. Like, the organization, there is no organization. Ethan Hunt is Ethan Hunt. He has his own team. They met each other literally in the first movie. There is no explanation needed anyway. It's not like the John Wick franchise where you need the continuity to explain the Continental. That's a different story. So I rate that, but you just don't need it. Well, everyone, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment what else you'd like to see on the channel, and comment what your thoughts on the Mission Impossible final finale even. And without further ado, I hope you all have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!
Yeah!